Hello everyone, Nigel here with you, Nigel's on the bench, and we're back now with part 2 of this experimenting with one-man army masks. And today I'm going to look at, first of all, I'm going to show you the differences. If you remember, we talked about the differences in the way this paint builds up doing different methods, and on this one I showed you, if you remember, A was where the one where I put loads of white primer down first, and then we had this step in it, and the trouble is, if you want to sand them back and smooth them out, you end up with this white edge, whereas this one here is the same, but you don't end up with the white edge because I didn't go all the way out to the edge. So there we go. Now it's early days, but a couple of you have commented and you've said you'd like to see D again done properly. So in this video I am going to do D properly, okay? So we won't be flitting back between one and the other. But better than that, just to really make your day, I'm going to do the registration letters as well. So I'm going to do the actual registration number that goes by the tail on the aircraft. I'm going to do the BVW, whatever it is, and the roundel. So we'll imagine this is like the side of the aircraft. And we're going to do all that. Then we'll put the camo on. Then we'll remove the masks and we'll see how it looks. And I reckon it's going to look great. So anyway, again, nothing about alignment, nothing about colours, shading, whatever. This is all about using the mask. This is not about an accurate finish. I know I'm using the wrong yellow. I'm probably using the wrong blue. Well, I know I'm using the wrong blue. It's too light. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is the depth of the paint. And on here I've done sanding, which has basically sort of killed the effect. But these here, which I made for a previous video and then scrapped, I haven't rubbed them down at all. So what I'm going to do is give these a very light coat of grey primer, and as we all know, grey primer makes things pop, and you will see the edges. And personally, I think doing this way is no advantage over decals because you've still got the raised edge. The advantage you've got over decals, I guess, is the colours. You can choose your own colours, you can weather it, you can fade it, you can do whatever. So these haven't been sanded, these are raw as unmasked, okay? So what we've got here is A, C and E. So this is having it all painted white and built up. This one is doing it each individual, taking each ring out, which I think is the worst way. And this one is where I put the mask in, painted the red, and then remasked the red, took the outward away and painted the blue. And then this one here is D. This is the one you all want to see again. This is where I did it first and then put the camouflage on afterwards. And then this one here is F, where I did it first and put the camouflage on afterwards. So I'm going to show you the difference. If I primer over these, you'll see the difference in how flat they are. So what I've got in the airbrush here is some XF19, because I don't want to waste my primer. I think there's a world shortage of Mr. Surfacer again. So I'm just going to lightly spray this on here, just to get a kind of build up. And I'm going to leave some of the roundel exposed. I'm just going to build this up slowly. I don't want to go flooding it on. And as you know, I always say grey primer, if there's an issue, grey primer will make it pop. It will make details pop, but it will also show up errors. So bear that in mind. Okay, so we can still see we've got A there, and then on this one we'll do the same again. We'll just colour those in. We'll leave half of it exposed so you can see that I'm not cheating and rubbing things away. And there we go. Right. Just give this another coat. So we've both got about the same level of coatage. Okay. And we'll let them dry. Alright, so I'm going to have to try and catch this in the light. We'll start by looking at A, and hopefully you can see there is like a massive raised edge. Let's try and get this light over here so we get a bit of a shadow going on. There you go. You can see that very prominent raised edge around that one. You can see this one here. This is the one where we did it all individually, and you can see that on this one you've got all the rings are showing. And this one here, I must have sanded it because there is no edge there whatsoever. So I must have sanded this because there's no edge at all. but there should be an edge. The other thing is the blue obviously covers very, very well compared to the yellow and the white. So the blue is much thinner, but I can't see any edge on there at all. So yeah, I mean, you could probably get away with doing your wing roundels after camouflage if you want to. And you can see in here, there is a very slight raised area, very, very slight, where the red's gone on. So so basically, this one was put the whole mask on, remove the center, spray the red, replace the center, spray the blue. So you can see there, that's just because of a mismatch. That's why we've got that ridge there. This one here, these are both done actually sort of, you know, first and then masked and then the camouflage painted afterwards. And as you can see, this one here, D, there is hardly anything there at all. So you can see that, you know, we've got a beautiful flat even finish. There is a very slight edge I could just make out there at about 1 o'clock. I don't know if you can see it, but, and on here again, this is the blue laid down and then the red on top, and obviously the red's got to cover the blue, so we've got this ridge on the red you can see there. So that's pretty much unavoidable. I guess a better way to do it might be to spray the red first and then put the blue over the red. We'll try that because the red doesn't cover as well as the blue, so it might be better to do the red first as our background, then mask the red, go over with the blue, and then mask the blue and do the overall. So I think that's what I might try that on this video. I'll have to make a note on here to remind me. So let's make a note on here so I see it. No, I don't want that one. I want something that's going to work. There we go. Sharpies always work. Do it red first. There you go. So I should see that and that'll remind me. But I've also gone over the roundels on here, and as you can see, if you remember, we lightly sanded the D, and there is absolutely nothing, no steps, no nothing. Again, the F, this is the same as the one we've seen just over here, and again you can see there is a step where the red is. So I think we're going to give that a go with the red first. Now E is looking quite nice, but these, remember, these have all been sanded. Even though they've been sanded, remember a sanded living daylights out of this one, you can still see a great big edge around it, and this one here you can still see the individual lines underneath in the shadow. That one there is better than that one, but you can still see the edge of the yellow, because obviously when you're spraying a light colour over a dark colour, you've got to build it up. So there we are. So there we go, guys. Right, so I'm going to get the rest of this sprayed grey, and this is going to be our template. So we're going to do a big roundel, we're going to do BV roundel W, we're going to do serial code, and we're going to do some stencils as well. Now this black ink's probably going to come through, which won't help. I could remove it, but I'll probably make a mess of the paint underneath. So I could actually sand it off, couldn't I? Okay, just a quickie, guys. You know, I'm always talking about using magic marker, and then you know, over your sprue nibs, then you sand them down. And I say don't use magic marker, use pencil. This is why. You can see there, you can see how much paint I've put over those letters, and they're still coming through. I didn't want to sand them away because I think the paint underneath is just going to tear. So what I'm going to have to do is actually strip this, because as you can see, if I can catch it in the light, you can see all these raised areas where the old roundels are and everything. It's pointless me trying to do this and show you, get a lovely flat look if underneath we've got it all raised. So I'm going to strip this with some IPA, and then I'll give it a coat of primer. We'll leave it to dry for a few hours, and then I'll come back and we'll start back. And we've got a wing all nice and primed. It's actually the next day now, so that's had overnight to dry, so it's all nice and smooth. And that is basically Mr. Surfacer on there. So we've got a nice base to start with. I've made, as you can see over here, I've made some transfer tapes up, and the only reason I've done that is for, you know, to keep the flow of the video going rather than me keep stopping and making them. So basically what we've got down here, if I move this over, what we've got down here is a transfer tape for the large roundel, for the wing roundel, which I'm probably not going to use because I've had a change of heart on that one. This is 24 OD by 14 ID, and this is for, if you remember, we removed the yellow and the blue together and then sprayed the yellow and replaced the yellow. That's going to be for removing the blue and the yellow, and then when we put it back we can see the centre to line up. If you remember when I did my video before, I had to cut the centre of the tape out, so that's what I've done there. These are just 10mm for centres or whatever, and then I've got these squares here are for the letters, these are for the serial codes. This one here is again is for the letters. You can see I've got an S on there, and this one here, I have since last night, a couple of people have asked to see B again, and B, if you remember, was the one where we put the outer down first and sprayed the white but didn't go out to the edge, so you didn't get the build up. And that one is basically, I think, the best way if you want to do your markings after painting the camouflage. I think that is the best way to do it. To do that we need one of these, if you remember, the square outside, so we can put it all down first. I don't have any of these, I've used them all, so I've had to make an outer, okay, from the ordinary masking tape. This is ordinary household 2-inch masking tape. That's what the white colour is, same as these over here. And this stuff does not stick at all. If you look at this will not stick to that at all. Look at that, it's just like, it's incredible. I could probably shake it off, there you go. It does not stick to this backing at all. So what I've done, I've used the Tamiya 40mm tape as a transfer tape on that one to hold it down. So rather than put this in, what I'm going to do is put this on the model, do the white painting. What we would normally do is put the whole thing on with a 32mm square of transfer tape, remove the centre, leaving the outer on there, spray the white inside, and then replace it. So what we're going to do is imagine, you have to use your imagination. Yeah, there you go, guys. You have to imagine that I'm taking it all off and taking the centre out. What I'm going to do is just put the outer on and then replace it with one of these here. One of these over here, you can see these are the roundels that I need. So hopefully it'll all work out. But it's basically to show you how B works again. What I'm going to do in this video, I'm not going to dart around and like do a bit of B and a bit of D and a bit of something else. I'm going to do D, okay, then I'm going to do the letters and the serial codes and everything. Then I'll do the wing roundel, and then I'll do this, okay? So that's what we're going to do. Right, so as I say, I've used ordinary masking tape. People are asking what I use for transfer tape. I've used ordinary masking tape. What you need to do is have a little play and have an experiment, because as I've already shown you, this will not stick to that backing. This stuff is the Tamiya 40mm. You know, you get your ordinary Tamiya 6mm and 10mm and 18mm. This is not the same tape, it's not the same stuff, it's nothing like as good. So what you need to do is have a look through your masking tapes and have a little play and decide which one you want to use. I'm personally finding this one to be the best, the ordinary household masking tape. I've cut them out with a simple compass cutter. You can get these pretty much anywhere, they're only a couple of pound, and that's all I've done to cut these out. You saw me before using a circle cutter. This video is not about cutting circles, it's about using these masks, but I'm just showing you how I've done this because I know people will ask. And the other thing is, when you come to cut your squares out, use the grid side of your mat, and then you can lay the tape down straight, and then when you want to do squares, you just have to make sure your rule is parallel to the adjacent line cut, and then you know you're going to be pretty square. They don't need to be precise, but they need to be fairly good. What you want to avoid when you use the transfer tape, like you don't want to put a piece of transfer tape which is covering this, I don't know if you can even see this. What you don't want to do is have the transfer tape going onto the next mask, because when you peel away you pull that mask up as well, so it needs to be neatly in the border of there, okay? And it's also always good to be able to see the outside edge of the mask you're using, whether that be a circle, a square, whatever. It's always good to have the outside edge exposed so you can see where you're going. So the first thing we got to do here is decide where the position is going to be. So if this was actually a model aircraft, we would get our references, something like this, and we would look on here and we would measure and scale it out, you know, scale this up to 32nd scale, and then measure from the front of the tailplane, say, to the centre of that letter, the centre of the roundel, the centre of that, the centre of that. I've already done that. I've done that actually on my Hurricane, and I've got some measurements. So what we're going to do, we're going to imagine, I'm going to draw a line here, draw a line in the sand. We're going to imagine that that is the front edge of the tailplane. Okay, so the other thing we need to do is make sure we know where they're going. Now you will see on here that this roundel here is pretty much level. Here's my rule. If I grab a rule, you can see that roundel is pretty much, it's just a couple of millimeters above the tops of the lettering, but it goes way below. So make sure you get your vertical position of your roundel okay. Make sure you get the vertical position of your serial numbers okay. And then, so it's vertical and horizontal positioning we're looking at. And only you can decide that when you look at your references. Some aircraft differ a lot. When you can look in here, and the difference just in Hurricanes is quite incredible. I mean, there you go, look at that compared to that. Okay, so make sure you've got your references right, okay, and then get your positions right. So what we're going to do here, I'm just going to draw a line. I've already done a line actually. In fact, I'm going to use a piece of tape to set a straight line, okay, and that is going to be my straight line across the bottom. And hopefully that is square to these engraved lines on here. So that's going to be my datum, and that's just a straight line that's square to those there. Okay, and I can use my masks to check if it's square. Yeah, that's good enough. Right, so we've got this now. So now what we can do, I know that the center of the B, so we're going to have NV roundel B. I know the center of the B is 40 millimeters, so I can make a line here, 40 millimeters, and then from there, the center of the roundel is 25 millimeters. So I can make a line there, and then from there, the center of the V is 23 millimeters, so I can make a line there. Now this doesn't have to be precise, this just has to be good. Okay, so we know that that's our V, that's our roundel, and that's our B. Alright, so we can go from there. So we're going to start with the roundel. So the roundel is going to have to go here. Now we know that on this model the roundel is central. It's the NVB goes along and the roundel is vertically in the center between them. So we can come along here and we can measure the height of the mask. So the height of the mask is 28 millimeters. So the 28 millimeters is going to be, because we're going to put the outer down as our reference, and we know the diameter of the roundel, I think, is 26 millimeters, is it? The roundel is 27 millimeters. So it's just going to be like half a mil above the edge of the masking. And when you look on here, just check the bottom of the B is just over 2 millimeters and the bottom of there is just over 2 millimeters. So we know we've got the same height. You can see there's the same height. So if we use the outer line of that box for our alignment, we know we're okay. If you're confused, if you're lost, rewind, just press the reverse button, the back arrow a load of times, so you can listen to what I'm saying again. So basically for our alignment we're going to use the outer box of that mask. Okay, so that mask is 28 millimeters tall and the roundel is about 27 millimeters diameter. So what I'm going to do for my alignments, I'm going to use a piece of 6mm tape and I'm just going to put that there. In fact, I'm going to cut that in half because it's way too long. Where's my knife gone? I just want some little tiny bits of tape just to act to show me where I'm going. Okay, so the bottom of the roundel is going to be about half a millimeter above that line because the roundel is slightly smaller. Okay, now obviously on your model you're going to be more precise than me. We'll cut that in half. Okay, so we know now that when we actually put our masks on, we're going to have them square to the panel lines. So that's going to be our vertical line. and we're going to have the bottom butting up against these bits of tape. Okay, I don't want to have it against the bottom of this tape because this piece of tape is going to stay there for our alignment and I don't want to be disturbing it. Now, we know that the roundel is 27mm diameter, so 27mm above there is going to be where the roundel's going to finish. Okay, bear with me here. So we know that the top of the roundel is going to be there. Okay, so we've got a vertical line. In fact, what I'll do is I'll put that tape back on straight rather than have it all on this like it is there. So let's take it off. Let's do this properly. Let's put this tape on straight. Okay, if you're getting bored, just fast forward. Right, 27mm. This is all roughly now. This is just our guide for painting. So what I'm going to do now, I can either use a pencil and make a line, okay, or I can actually put another piece of tape on. So another little piece of tape here, okay, and then we're going to come right here. So we've got 27mm diameter, so that's 13.5mm. That's about, so we're about there is going to be the outside. So we can put a piece of tape, hang on a minute, 13.5mm takes me just inside that panel line there. So we know that's going to be the diameter of the sides. Oh, come on tape, don't start playing up. And then 27mm over from there, that's roughly there. Okay, so we know that our roundel is going to sit in that shape there. And when here we go, this bloody tape. And please don't tell me to put the tape in the other way around. I know that, but I don't like having it collecting dust. Right, so got some bits of tape here. So I'm just going to put a piece of tape there. And a piece of tape there. So now I can remove these. Okay, and now I know if I spray my white paint within there, so we come out to here, out to here, out to here, I know that I'm going to at least overlap the masking, because remember we want the white to be a base for the yellow, and when we do this we're using the minimum amount of paint we can. Okay, so now I can paint my white, so that'll be the start of my roundel. For that I'm going to use XF2. I'm going to use XF1 for the black on the serial numbers. I'm going to use XF2, 3, 7 and 8 for the roundels, and then I'm going to use XF21 for the lettering. Now, as I said earlier, please don't correct me if any of these colours are wrong. I know the red and the blue is wrong. This is just for effect to show you how it's done. So, right, so we'll put our paints over there. So I'm going to use XF2 for the white, which is probably not a good idea, but we're going to see how it goes, because I know that you guys don't have every paint under the sun. You see how that's fine in there. And I'm going to use X20A thinners, and the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to be doing this on camera, and I don't want really bad, heavy, smelly fumes filling the room up. So what I'm doing is I'm using this, which is much kinder. You should still use a mask and a booth, but I'm only doing little bits. So I'll probably do some painting off camera, to be honest, because of the build-up. So the first thing I'm going to do here is spray the white, and as I've shown you, I know that I can come out to this tape here, and what I've done, I marked out the 27mm diameter with the tape, okay? So then I've come outside of that, so I know that I'm 6mm outside of it. So when I measure across there, that'll be 27 plus 6, which is 33. Sorry, plus 12, because it's two lots of tape. So that's 27 plus 12, which is 39. And there you go, 39mm. Okay, and it'll be the same that way, 39mm. So I know that if I stay within that tape, I know that I'm going to be good. Alright, so let's get that white paint down. Alright, so I'm just going to spray this down here, roughly 18 psi. And this is Tamiya XF2 white. It sometimes can be a bit grainy, so we'll see how it goes. See, I'm just painting a circle, staying within those lines of tape, and I know then that I'm good. As I say, we're using a minimum of paint because we don't want build up and we want it to dry fast. So that is literally the white done, and that went down lovely, I must be honest. I wasn't expecting it to be that nice. One more quick blast over. Remember, the white is also an undercoat for the yellow. So the centre needs to be intense because we want that brilliant white. The outside just needs to be an undercoat. So it's the middle we want good. Right, so that can be left to dry, and then we can start with our masking. Okay, so the white paint's down and dry. So what we need to do now is more precisely mark, sort of give ourselves a reference where we're going to put this this mask for the actual roundel itself. So I know that, as I say, the bottom edge of the mask, the bottom edge of the roundel, sorry, is going to be just inside, because I'll repeat again, we are actually using the box rather than the letter for our positioning. So I know that the box is 28mm tall and the roundel is 27mm in diameter. So the roundel's bottom edge needs to be just above the bottom edge of that box, 0.5 millimeter, to keep it central in line. So the centre of the roundel will be in line with the centre of the letters. Okay, as I say, when you look at your model, make sure, when you look at your references, should I say, make sure you've got that right. And what you're looking for, you see here, this one's like, this is higher than this, and it's you can see there's a photograph there, and they're all sort of pretty much like I'm doing. They're all centered. So make sure that you've got what you want to do is what you're doing. So basically, we're pretty much, you know, size for size, they're pretty much the same. So I'm going to put this one in here, and I'm going to put this down here above that line, and it's going to be just above the tape. So it's about 0.5 millimeter above the tape. You can see there, there's a tiny little gap. So that's going to be my bottom edge. Now, so I need now to mark the vertical line. I'm going to sort of basically put an L so I can wedge the thing down in there. So 13.5 millimeters over from here is there. Okay, so I now need to make sure that my tape is vertical. I mean, none of this needs to be precise, guys. I'm just showing you how I'm going about it. And I need to know that my tape is vertical, so I want to put it down sort of here. Okay, so I can see that the edge is in line with that mark I've just made, and the tape is going to run parallel to that panel line. I've made it, couldn't plan this, could you? I've made the tape too long so I can't see the panel line. But what I want to do is put this tape down here so I can see the panel line, and then I know that my tape is parallel to that panel line, so I know that's vertical. Okay, so I've now got a square to put it down in, so I can remove these bits of tape here. Oh, these tweezers are useless. These are the real cheap Chinese things. Where's my nice ones? There they are. There's my Dave Cody ones. These are much nicer. Okay, so I'm going to remove these bits of tape now, because they were my guides for spraying, if you remember. So what we do now is we can take our masking sheet, and what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put a 10mm disc in the middle. Okay, and that will not only mask our red when we spray the other colours, but it'll also make the masking tape doesn't stick to itself as well as it sticks to this. So when I lift it away, it should leave that behind. And then I'm going to take my disc. This is a 24mm disc. I can put this over here like so, get it roughly centered. I mean, that looks pretty perfect, but it doesn't need to be that perfect. And just rub that down like that and make sure that it's all stuck on there nicely. Okay, and then I'm going to use a sharp point. Or what you can do, if you just bend the masking tape or the masking sheet, the edge will pop up, as you can see there. Okay, so we've got the edge popped up there. So now we can remove this from the sheet, and our transfer tape has taken the whole thing off in one. So I'm going to turn this upside down now, and basically I'm going to put this down so that it's butting up to the tape. Okay, so I'm going to come away. It's probably going to take 3 or 4 attempts. There we go, that's good enough. So I can just put that down now, and you can see that tape is up against there and it's up against there. Now I'm going to push down on the centre. Okay, because what we're going to do now, we've got the tape in place, And you know that on this roundel, this centre portion here, let's try and get it in the light so you can see what I'm looking at. This centre portion here is white, and everything else is red, yellow, and blue. Okay, we've got a new colour, Rello. So what I'm going to do now is remove this tape. So first of all, I'm going to see if I can remove this transfer tape from the top and leave the rest on the model. There we go. Okay, so that's our transfer tape off. I'll save that for a rainy day. Alright, now we're going to fit this other piece of transfer tape that I made. And this is 14mm ID by 24mm OD. And if we get it pretty central, like that, you can rub that down. And now we should be able to remove the blue and the yellow together. This is the bit this is the trickiest part of the whole operation. Oh, the other thing we're going to do is get rid of this tape here. There are guidelines to make sure our roundel is in the right place. We don't need them anymore. So I'm going to get under here. I'm just going to lift this slowly. And what I want to do, I want to see if I can get it all off together, the yellow and the blue. Okay, the blue doesn't want to come at the moment, so we're just going to get a blade underneath it and just lift the blue with. And what I've found is rather than peel it like this, if you work from the outside in, it works a lot better, because when you peel it up like this, it tends to curl over the outside edge, or the edge that's further from you, should I say. And as you can see, doing it that way, it works a lot better. You'll see that some of the white paint has come away there. That's absolutely fine. And then we're going to put this onto our backing sheet here for safekeeping. Okay, don't stick it to your bench, it'll stick too well. So there we go. So now we've got our white centre mast. We know we've got everything in the right position. So now what we can do is go around with the yellow. And we can see here, as long as we cover that area outside there and we go almost into there, we know we'll be covered. We could paint the whole thing yellow, but there's no need, because remember, we'll get a build up of paint on that edge. What we don't want is the build up. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is spray around there with yellow. Okay, so we've got some XF3 yellow mixed with X20A in our airbrush. Just going to blow back. Grab a piece of paper, my dirty old paper here. Just check the flow. Roughly 15, 18 psi, something like that. And then what we're going to do is go around the outside with the Buffalo Girls, because that's what they do. Just like that. Okay. Here we go. So that's that done. So we'll let that dry, and then we'll put the yellow and blue mask back. We'll remove the blue and we'll paint the blue. Right, so see you in a minute. So basically now what we need to do is remove this from here and put it back on there, which is why I made this mask with the hole in the centre, because what I need to do, I need to line up that centre around that. So we're going to get under here and we're going to lift this away and we're going to put this on. Now I'm probably going to have to go off camera to do this, because I think I need a magnifier. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say, notice here when I painted the yellow, I haven't gone up to the edge of the masking. You can see on there, it's sort of just fogged on there. That way we don't get a build up of paint, so we'll only have the blue layer there. We won't have the yellow and the blue. Okay, so we're just going to put this on here. Try and get it lined up. I'm just going to go and get this done with the magnifier, and then I'll come back. You know what I'm doing. I'm basically putting this down and lining up the edge with the There we go. I've decided to bring the camera in a bit closer as well. So there you can see that's on there now. So I've got the yellow and the blue mask in place. So what we need to do is remove our transfer tape. Maybe the transfer tape will stick to the blue. No. That's okay. We're just going to take that transfer tape away. That's pretty much finished with now. fact, we can use it for something else in a minute. And then what we're going to do, we're going to remove the blue, just like so. So take that away, put that on the backing paper, okay, just like so. And now we can spray our blue, and we need to make sure we go up to the edge on both sides, inner and outer, because that is our final colour until we do the centre in red. So let's get some blue on there. Right, so we can get our blue on now. So I've got it mixed up in here, roughly 50-50 with X20A. So come in here and just paint the blue. So keeping it as light as we can, staying at 90 degrees to the mask, keeping the paint dry. We don't want any pooling or anything. If you start to see the paint start to shine where it's wet, just come away. Okay, perhaps blow it off with the airbrush and then just go back in, start adding some more colour. Alright. Alright, now what you should do really is mask around the outside to prevent this blue build-up, but as you can see what's happening, the paint is below. You can see you've got a clean yellow band between the masking tape because I'm spraying at 90 degrees, the paint is being blown away from the masking tape. But really what you want to do, which I should have done, is mask around there first so you don't get a blue line between the camouflage and the yellow. It's very unlikely, but you never know. So just build that up. We've got our colour there now. We've got a nice solid blue colour, perhaps a bit more over there. There we go. This is why when I did the other one I did them like bit by bit, because you know I've already cleaned the airbrush out 3 times and this is going to be 4 now. There we go. Right, so that can be left to dry and then we can look at doing the red. So in preparation for doing the red, what we need to do now is remove this disc from the centre. Okay, just lift that one away. My tweezer's gone. Here they are over here. Let's remove that disc from the centre, being careful not to lift the mask. So we can put that one down there. And then we've got to weed out the little centre disc which is going to be painted red. Be careful not to dig in and take a chunk of paint out. There we go. So we've got the white, you can see the white base underneath there. And what we need to do now is mask off the whole thing. I mean, we could put the blue, this blue ring back in. I mean, I'll tell you what, I'll do it just for stuff and giggles. But it doesn't need to be precise or anything. We can put that back in there. That's gone in beautifully, I think. And then what we need to do is mask the rest of this off. So for that, I'm going to use my El Cheapo tape. I mean, what you could do if you've got your circle cutter out is just cut. In fact, let's go for it. Let's get a mask, piece of masking tape. We can cut the outside. This is already set to about 25mm, I think. So there we go, we got that there. And then this in here, the centre needs to be 10mm. Okay, so we can make our mask now, which is a lot more, oh, I messed it up. Always happens when the camera's on. So what we can do there, we've got this mask made up. That's it, I'm going to do that again. Okay, there we go. So that is, in fact, I've got the OD a little bit too big. I'm going to go, this is the 3rd attempt at doing this. This tape is horrible. This is the Tamiya 40mm tape. It's doesn't like cutting, it likes to just tear. It's very, very thin, it's not very sticky. It's just all round, like not very good. It's good if you just want to cover a large area or something, so that's what I kind of use it for. And I thought it was good for transfer tape, but it's proving not to be. As I say, we're lifting up circles, come from the outside edge in, it makes it a lot better. So we can place this now over our mask like that. In fact, I got it too far over one way, I think. Just move it over a touch. There we go. So now we're ready to spray our red. And what we really should be doing is masking around the outside, but I'm not going to worry about it because I'm only doing that little bit in the centre, so it's not going to be an issue. So what we've done with this masking tape is masked off the line around the white and the line around the blue, between the blue and the yellow. That's what that's there for. Okay, I mean, that is the beauty of this 40mm tape. If you're not happy, excuse me, you can lift it off time and time again and put it back down if you want to get it more central, just for, you know, just for perfection, if you like. But it's all you need to do is make sure you've covered the line between the parts, between the different rings. So we'll come in now and do the red. Alright, so as you can see, I've got some red in the airbrush there. Little tip for newer modelers: if you're doing a tiny little bit like this, you don't need to be pouring paint in the airbrush. All I do, I put a drop of thinners in the bottom first, and then just a brush full of paint, and then just blow back to mix it up. That's all you need, is that little tiny drop in there. It doesn't need to be full of paint. So we could just do a little test. Piece of paper. Yeah, that's good. And then what we're going to do is just going to blow that in. Again, keeping it nice and dry. I've got a very thin mix so I don't get a step. Trying to avoid paint build up here. And as you can see, I'm just literally dusting it in. Again, it's about 15 psi. You can see the paint doesn't go shiny at all. It's because it's not going on wet. Staying 90 degrees to the masking. And there we go, there's our red. Just a little bit more. There we go. I'm still not happy with that, I want it a bit darker. You can see the secret here is to keep the paint very, very dry. There we go. Right, that's that done. So guess what I'm going to say next? We leave that to dry. Okay, so now that's dry, we could just mask off the centre. So we could use the disc we cut out of the middle of this mask. Just plonk it in there. And all we're trying to do is cover up the red bit. So that's that done. In fact, that's got a hole in the centre, so I'm going to put this little disc over it. It came out. There we go. There we are, so that's that all covered up. So that's that whole mask masked now. If you want to, you could make another disc and put it over just to make sure the whole thing's sealed in. But I'm happy with that. I know that's going to be fine. Basically, all you're trying to do is cover where you've got a demarcation between different colours. That's all you want to do. And make sure, obviously, that yellow one is the outside, because that's what's going to give you your outside edge. That's staying there forevermore until we put the camouflage on. So now we need to start looking at the lettering, and as I said, I've already done the spacing out. And as I say, if this line here represents the front edge of the tailplane, 40mm in is the centre of the S. Okay, not the S, the B. All right, so I did record all this, putting this tape down here, and it was awful. So what I've basically done is measured the size of the boxes that the letters come in. Now, you can see here we've got the N and the V, and the centre of the V, I need to mark these, don't I? The centre of the V is there, and the centre of the B is there. I thought I'd already done that one. No, I'm using the other sheet. So basically, we've got the box marked out there. Now this is our datum for putting the box down. So we've got the bottom there and the right hand edge there. And then this here is just showing the top and where the left's going to come. These pieces of tape here are just basically masking off the edges of the roundel so we don't get the grey paint on them. And then this is going to be our right hand datum for our NV. Okay, so we've got NVB. This is the left hand, roughly where it's going to come. This is the top, roughly where it's going to come. And this here is roughly where the edge of the V is going to be. And I've put that there because I don't want, in fact I'm going to move it over a touch. Where did I do my tweezers? Here they are. I don't want to get a hard edge, so in fact I'm just going to leave that off. But we know, I've put a pencil line there, we know that the V is roughly going to go there like that. So I don't want to be building up onto this tape here, so I'm just going to get a gentle edge on there. I'm not going to get a hard edge. But we need to spray within that box there. In fact, I'm going to put another piece of tape just there to show. It's going to be difficult to see anyway. So I've mixed some paint up. I've got an XF19 light grey with a drop of white in it, so it's just off. So we'll just get this down. And this will be the colour of our lettering. Okay, so there's our B there. Hardly takes anything because it's grey on grey. Again, we've got our V here, and I'm going to make sure I don't go up to that masking tape. The rest of it doesn't matter. I just want to make sure I don't form an edge on that masking tape. We don't want to produce steps and everything in the surface. So there we go, we can just paint this area here for our N and our V. It's practically the same colour as the Mr. Surfacer underneath it. There we go, so we've done our letter colour first, remember. That was a good guess with the paint, wasn't it? There we are. So we can just blow that, dry it back. Got a piece of dust in the paint there, wipe that off when it's dry. We'll let that dry and then we'll start getting our masks down. Alright, so that grey is nice and dry, so now we can come along and we can remove these bits of tape from here. Okay, we can remove that piece there because we've masked up to protect the grey, protect the roundel from the grey. And now we've finished our painting, so we can remove these bits here. They can come off. These here can come off. These here can come off. The other thing I've realised while I've been sat here waiting for this paint to dry, we don't need to mark the centre lines because we've got our tape here. These pieces of tape here are our datums. Now, as I say, this one doesn't need to be perfect because we're going to be using the bottom as the datum. So what we can do now is use our transfer tape, and we're going to get the B off first. So we're going to pick up the B. Now what I'm going to do before I lift this up, I'm going to weed out. Yes, I'm going to weed out the centres. So we'll put this over here because we don't need them at all. So I can put this B on here, just like so. Rub it down nice and firm, make sure it all stays together. Lift up this bottom left corner, get a little piece of masking tape, sticky side to sticky side, stick it under there, that makes it easier to lift off. And then we can take this away, and you can see there that the B wants to stay on the sheet. And then we're going to carefully come along here. I'm going to add another little piece of tape here so that I've got a corner to work into. What I'm going to do is fit this B, make sure it's the right way up. That would be great, wouldn't it? Fit this B into the corner, just like so. Remove my finger and then keep this side up. Place this against the tape. And then rub that down nice and firmly. Okay, and then we can take the transfer tape for the N and the V. Remember, you don't have spares of these, so you've got to be careful. So we're going to put the transfer tape down on there. Make sure it's, you see, this is what you'll be careful of. Make sure it's square on the bottom edge. I doubt if you can see what I'm doing because you probably can't see the edges of the tape, but the edges of the mask. But you'll pick it up in a minute. So give that a good firm rub down. Okay, lift up the bottom left hand corner. You know what I'm going to do next, don't you? Grab a piece of this underneath there, just like so. And then we can slowly lift this off, making sure it all stays together. Masking sheet out of the way. And I think I'm going to add a piece of tape here again, so I've got a corner to work into. What it is, I'm trying to work against that edge there and that edge there. So what I'm doing is putting a piece of tape in so that I've actually got a corner rather than just an empty space. So I've got a corner to work into there. So we can come around here, I'm keeping this side up, okay, so it doesn't stick. So I want to make sure that corner goes in. It's a bit difficult to see because of the yellow paint behind it. And then I want to make sure this edge, in fact we're using the bottom edge, aren't we, on this one? I'm going to make sure that lines up there, there we go. So that's gone down. As I say, it doesn't need to be perfect, and it's going to be a lot easier doing it like this than it is on your model. Okay, as you can see, we've got a slight gap there, but I'm not really worried about that. Alright, so that's that in position. We can rub that down nice and firmly, and then I'm going to come along and take all these bits of tape away because we don't need them. Take that one off of there, take that one away from there, and this one here. There we go. So now what we can do is lift up the corner of this, and hopefully we can leave the B behind. Very slowly, very slowly. There you go. And now you can see why I weeded the centres of those B out before. Okay, so there's our B. And then we should be able to do the same with the N and the V. So there's the bottom leg of the N is staying there. I've used tweezers so you can see what I'm doing. The bottom leg of the N is there, so we're going to just work along like this. And I'm conscious that up here we're going to have that leg of the N sticking out, so we've got to be careful not to leave that out on its own. Just carefully remove that, just like so, and then we can just lift up this and then pull back for the centre of our B. So there you can see we've got the NVB mask now. Now obviously if your camouflage is already down, you may choose to do your roundel this way, but put the lettering on top. Obviously you do exactly the same, but instead of removing the inner, you remove the outer, but you'd remove the inner while it's still on the sheet. Okay, it's a lot easier to weed on the sheet than it is on the model. And then you'd put the outer box down, remove your mask, your transfer tape, and you'd have the outer to spray the grey. I've done the grey first here. Alright, so that's that's ready to go. So we're ready to put the camouflage on. Next one now is the serial and registration number, which I believe for this one correctly is 7345, isn't it? Where is it? 7345 here. So we've got a piece of transfer tape for this one. Now again, what we're gonna do, we're gonna leave the letters on. What we could do is weed the numbers and the letters out, put the outline down, mask around it, and then spray black. But what I'm going to do here is spray black first and then put them down. So what we can do here is look at our positioning, and we want our 7345 to be in the centre, and the edge of the 5 actually comes to the leading edge of the tailplane. So we know where that is. We know that our mask is 26mm long. In fact, we're going to measure it from the actual back of the 5, not the mask. It's 26mm long. So 25mm long, sorry. So I'm going to go up to there. So we know now that we need to spray up to there. And to keep a line central, we know that these are 28mm tall. So if we go up 14mm, we come to the centre of the B, as you can see there. So what we can do is get a longer piece of tape and basically put that roughly across. Okay, so we know that it's square, so we can get our rule, come across the centres like this, and we can see that back edge of that tape needs to come up slightly. that's pretty much it. So what we can do, we know that these numbers are, well, the mask is 8mm tall. So what we'll do, we'll get a piece of tape and we'll go a little bit above there. And we'll get another piece of tape, we'll go a little bit below there. So now we know, let me take this away, we know that in that area there we need to paint black so that our letters and numbers show through in black. Okay, so this is XF1 mixed with X20A. So we'll just spray this area in here. Black. Okay, there we go. That's that done pretty much. As I say, you may choose to do this after your camouflage. Then what you would do is weed out the 7345, whatever it is, and put the outer down. I'm doing it the other way around, so you can see how it looks. And I might later on do it the other way around as well on top of the camouflage. Right, in fact I could do it right under there, couldn't I, on the camouflage, and then you can see the two of them next to each other. So there we go. You might also be asking yourself, hang on Nige, you've got that sky coloured band to go in there. Remember, the lettering goes over the sky coloured band. The sky coloured band doesn't blank out the lettering. Think of it in reverse. If you can see the lettering, that's what you put down first, because you're going to mask over the lettering to put the other colour down. Probably doesn't make sense, but I'll show you in a minute and it will make sense when you see it done. Right, so that's that done in that area there. So now we can remove this masking tape, because I've just realised I've done something silly. I have actually painted up to the masking tape, so I've probably produced an edge. So I'm going to now, with the airbrush, just come in and just soften that edge, like so. That was a schoolboy error. That was thinking about what I'm doing on the camera rather than thinking about what I'm doing on the plastic. Alright, so I should have put the masking tape further out like I did here. I moved it right out, like this bit here. So there we go. So now we won't see an edge underneath our camouflage. If we do, it's my fault. What you could do there is wait for it to dry and then rub it back and just paint it again. But I don't think we've got an edge there. If we have, we'll know why, and it's a schoolboy error. So there we go. So wait for that to dry and then we'll put our numbers down. Right, so I did actually rub it down and go over it again. I did actually have an edge. So there we go. Easy to make these mistakes. So as I did here, excuse me, what you need to do, rather than mark it and then spray it, is put masking tape the other side of it, and then you've got that 6mm band to spray within, like I did here, as I said just now. So we've got that there. So now we need to look at the position. Now we know that the lettering, the box that the lettering is in, is just over 8mm tall, and we know that this here is 28mm tall. So we know that the centre of there is 14mm above this level of tape here. So I'm going to put another piece of tape. I've added a piece here in line with that. So I'm going to put another piece here, butted up to the edge. Okay, so we know we've got a parallel line now going across there. So I need to make sure I've got my, in fact I'm going to have to put another piece there because we're going to need two measurements, aren't we, to make sure it's square. So I'm going to use my tape there. So put that one there, butt it up to the edge, just like so. Alright, so 14mm above there is the centre line. Now I know that the box that the tape is in is roughly 8mm, so that's 4mm from centre, so it needs to be roughly 10mm above this line here. Now the best thing to do there is get a piece of 10mm tape, rather than try and measure everything. So get a piece of 10mm tape and we'll place it down on there, level with the edge there, just like so. So I know now that my box has to sit on top of that piece of 10mm tape, and I know that my tail plane is here. Okay, So the last letter, the last number 5 needs to be sort of up against that line, and the bottom edge of the box needs to be butted up against there. So we will get our transfer tape on top of here, and what I'm going to do first is weed out the centre of that 4. We use the bottom one. Get rid of that, and then actually that can go under that corner. That can be our piece of tape to make it easy to lift off. There we go. Right, so that's like that now. So we're going to get our piece of transfer tape, place that neatly in the boundaries of the box, and then pull it down like so. There we go. Okay, and then I've got it slightly overhanging the bottom edge, which I'm not happy about, but we're going to have to go with it because I don't want to risk lifting it off and taking any numbers away. So we've got all the numbers on there. So now this needs to go. So we know that that 5 is roughly, it's just coming away, that 5. We know that that 5 is roughly 2 millimeters in from the back edge, and I think we're going to get one go at this. So I'm going to put this down here like so, put that down there like so, and then rub it down. And as I say, you've got one go at that. You're not going to get many chances of playing around with that. And then we're just going to lift our transfer tape away, and we should end up with our numbers being left behind. As you can see, I'm lifting it very, very slowly, very carefully. And there we go. Don't rub them, you'll pull them up, just push them down. Okay, and then we can remove, get rid of that. We can remove this piece of tape from here. Stick that over there. And there we go, we've got our 7345 there straight and in line with the centres. I think I've got it just off actually. But oh no, it just doesn't look right because of something else. But I think it's slightly on an angle. Okay. Right, so because I didn't have that bottom edge properly done, I should have done it better. In fact, I'll do it again. So we're going to do it again. I do like to show you what's and all, don't I? So the reason I got that wrong before, the transfer tape, I put it on and it was slightly lower, so it was covering this bottom edge. So what I've done is put it on slightly higher now so I can see all the edges, and that's the most important thing. So what we're going to do is carefully remove that's a shame, the letters aren't coming away with the transfer tape. I don't know why. That is an absolute nightmare. Okay, that's sorted. What I've done is just gone over with the back of the tweezers and just properly rubbed it down. So we've now got that all off of there. Right, so now we can take our assembly with our transfer tape. We know that the 5 has got to be on that line back there, so we know that's right. So we can butt this up to the bottom of here. We'll butt the bottom of the transfer tape, or the bottom of the masking tape, up to the 10mm tape, just like so, and then rub it down, and then we should be able to lift away the outer, and the inner will stay where it is. Again, very, very slowly. And I think that's much better. I hope that's much better because I'm not doing it again. There we go. That's more in line now. That is much better. Right. So, as I say, the black lettering is written over the sky coloured band. So we need to make sure that we do the black lettering first, and then when we mask the band, when we take all the tape away, the black lettering will show through the band. So I know that the band is, it's 13mm wide and it's 10mm in from the trailing edge, from the leading edge. So it's going to be there, and it's 13mm wide, so that's going to take us up to there. So I know now that that's where our band's going to come. So I need to get a piece of tape 13mm wide. Alright, so to do this I'm going to use my Infini cutting mat. I think this blade has seen better days, so this may not work very well, we shall see. Come on, come away, there we go. Right, so I'm going to get my rule, 13mm. Don't ever count on this being 13 lines across, so 13mm from that edge is roughly there. Again, it's not precise. They didn't use micrometers to measure the width of bands in World War II. They just sort of probably used a rule and a pencil line. So there's our piece of 13mm ready to go on there. So we've got that done. Now what we need to do, same as we did before, without doing a schoolboy error, get a couple of bits of masking tape. So we know that, we'll avoid putting them over these letters for a minute. We know that the band is going to be in there. Okay, so we'll get another 2 pieces of tape. This is the mistake I did with the black. We get another 2 pieces of tape, put one there and one there, and then we remove these just like so. And what we do then, we'll just put some up there actually as a guide just to help. What we'll do then is we'll spray sort of up to the tape, not right up to it. So we know that 6mm inside of there and 6mm inside there is where the colour needs to be. So we need to remove all of this because we need to put our sky coloured band in. Okay. And now we've got these pieces of tape here. So we've lost our references there. So after we put the sky colour on, we can put a piece of tape there, and we know that that's going to be where our 13mm band's going to start. So we can get the sky colour on now. And I think I'm going to do that off camera because you've probably seen enough of me painting. Okay, so we put the bits of tape in there to line this up. We've got our 13mm wide band of tape in there. We've got our sky colour down there behind it. So now we're ready to basically put the camouflage on. This is done. So what we're going to do now, come along with our tweezers or any sharp implement. Sorry for to clear my throat, guys. And then we're going to lift off this tape like so and get off, and we can get our camouflage down. And I am going to use, for the camouflage, because I don't want to use up all my camouflage paint because I've got the proper green and brown mixed up. So I'm going to use XF58 olive green and XF68 NATO brown because I've got lots of them. So that's what I'm going to use for this. So NATO brown and olive green rather than the proper colour camouflage. But you get the idea. The other thing I've done, I've come in with the end of my tweezers and just pushed in the masking around the Z and the front of the 4 so we don't get any bleed. Okay, so there we are. So I'm going to get some camouflage down. I was going to do the main wing roundel by this method as I did before, but I've decided I'm going to see what it's like if I put the camouflage down first and then put the red down, because if you remember on these, this one here, this was done with the blue and then the camouflage painted around the outside like this. But as you can see, I've got a step in the red, which we saw before, which I've tried to sand out. But we've also got a step down into the blue. It's like the blue covers better than the brown and the green. So what I'm going to do, because this one looks a lot nicer, and I think I've actually given it a light sanding, what I'm going to do the camouflage, then I'm going to put the red down. Okay, then we'll put the whole thing down and we'll remove the blue. And we'll spray the blue and then take the whole thing off and see how it looks, because I think the blue covers the best out of all the paint, so therefore it's the thinnest, it's the least layered, so it's the least likely to give you a step. So we can see then which is the best between this and doing it on top of the camouflage. So I'm just thinking I could do 50-50, couldn't I? No, I can't. So what we're going to do is get some camouflage down on this, and then I'll be back and we'll see how it looks. Okay, so there we go, the camouflage is all down and we're good to go. So we're ready now to unmask it. Now what I was going to do in this video, and I think I've probably mentioned it earlier, I was going to do stenciling and everything, but this has just gone on so long, I'm going to do another video. So this video will just be this, and we'll call it a day. I'll do another video and we'll cover type B, which is where we put the ring down and don't spray up to the edge and everything, because people want to see that. I'm also going to do some of this lettering over the camouflage and show you how to do this one here, where we have the S is over the lettering. You can see that the S goes over the registration number where it's painted over. So I'll show you how to do that. And we're also going to do the big roundel on top of the camouflage as well, so that, and stenciling. So the next video, this is going to cover this. I'm going to unmask this now. The next video will cover stenciling, type B, and the big roundel. Okay, so that'll be another probably hour-long video. So if you're not bored enough yet, you can get even more bored watching that one. So we'll call this one type D. So let's get this unmasked and see how it looks. We'll start by removing this 13mm band. So remember, this wasn't just about D, it was about doing the whole side of the aircraft. So let's get this off of here. See how it looks. Now, as I said before, any paint coming away or anything is not the fault of the masks. That'll be my fault for working too fast. So you can see we've got a nice sharp edge there. Now, to get these masks off, we need a nice sharp point. Okay, and just gently lift the masks away. Just like so. Okay, so we can put these over here. These are all, you could reuse them if you wanted to, but to be honest, they're very difficult to get back onto the sheet. Okay, there we go, and you can see here I've actually let that lift there. It's lifted, that top of that 5 is lifted, but you can see there, if you ignore the 5, you can see how sharp and clean that is, and there's no step or anything. That is proper painted on stuff. It's really nice. Let's see how this B looks. There we go. There's the B, and you can see how crisp and sharp that is. No carrier film, no worry about silvering, no having to put clear coats down, none of that. Just using the masks. So there's that one, and you can see how clean and sharp the N and the V is. Again, no step, nothing there, absolutely awesome. And then when it comes to this one, we should be able to lift this outer ring and the whole thing will probably come away together. Yes, no, it's not. That's a shame. So we can see there we've got our lovely sharp yellow edge. There's our sharp yellow to blue edge. I've just scratched it. And then there's our red in the center. So we can see that other than that scratch, in fact it's not a scratch, what it is, it's something under the paint. It's a bit of decal or something left on there. I've noticed down here there's a decal somewhere. I did see it. There's decals and everything on here. So we shall see. But there you go. That's the side of your Hurricane NVB Z3745, and that is how to achieve the completely flat painted on look with no raised edges whatsoever. So there you are. There you go. Yeah, I'm over the moon with it. It's really nice. I just wish I'd noticed that end of that 5 had lifted. That's really annoying me. Never mind. It probably would look like that in real life anyway. You could just see where the end of that 5 is lifted and the green paint's got under it. But the rest of it is just really nice. So with these masks, you know, what are the benefits? What are the downsides to them? I'll talk about the downsides first. The downside of this over decals is time. You've just seen me do this, and I've done it in real time, and it's taken roughly an hour and a half, I guess, to do all of this. But that includes the painting and everything, so I guess it's probably you know, if you take away the time painting the camouflage and the band there, which you would do anyway even if you were using decals, then it's probably about an hour. Whereas if you had like 1, 2, 3, 4 decals, you're probably looking at about 20 minutes to get them down. So time is a bit of an issue, but having said that, it's the end result. Is it worth the extra time taken? That's only you can make that decision. And then the other downside is cost. It's an additional cost to your model. But having said that, if you've got, you know, like some of the Tamiya kits, certainly like if you take, for example, that new Takom Apache, the decals in that are absolutely awful. They are the worst decals I've ever used. So, you know, it's worth the extra cost then. If Sven made a set for that, I would buy them in an instant, because the decals in that kit are just awful. So, you know, the cost is sort of there. It's kind of up to you. You pay your money, it takes your choice. But I personally think the cost is worth it, especially when you take, for instance, like the Border Models Lancaster. Remember, Sven does a complete set of stencils and livery for the Lancaster. Now, the decals are not the easiest to use in that kit. They're nice, but they're not the easiest to use. The registration codes are all over the place. I think the colours are off on some of the decals, and also you only get the red stenciling, whereas if you want to do an earlier Lancaster, you might want to use grey stenciling. So with the masks, you've got the option of using what colour you want. The pros, as I was just saying, colour choice. Now, you know, as I say, please ignore the colours I've used. These are just out of the bottle colours. But this grey, for example, if you've got the Revell Hurricane, you may think that grey is a bit light or a bit dark in the decals. Here, you've got your choice. You can spray whatever colour you can do them pink if you want to, and if you want to, you can have lines going across them. So the colour choice is there. It's down to you. You know, we've often heard about decals being off colour and off register and all this, that and the other. You won't get that with this. Everybody talks about getting the painted on look. Whenever they talk about decals going down with Good Setting Solutions, they want the painted on look. This is the painted on look. Okay, you can't fault it. It's painted on. So there you go. Weathering. I know you can sand decals back, but quite often when you sand decals, you will get through to a different colour behind. For example, with this roundel, they would probably put white on first and then put the colours down. So when you rub it, you would get the same effect as I had with like this one here with the big step on it. When you sand it, you get the white coming through. So you know, there's a disadvantage there with weathering, whereas with these you can sand them, you can weather them, you can do whatever you want with them, and they're going to look great. You can just basically fade them back and bleach them and everything. And then bleaching, you can change the colour. You could, you know, if you want to, if this is on the side of an aircraft and it's round, the top will be more bleached than the bottom, so you can actually fade the colours while the masks are still on, and you could do fading and bleaching and all that, and just make the actual, you know, the actual roundel itself look matte, look faded, rather than the whole aircraft. So if you wanted to do that, you could. And also pre-shading. If you pre-shaded this model on the panel lines and everything, you could have the pre-shading coming through so it all looks even with the paint. So that's something else you can't get with decals. And also the other pro with these is, as I said just now, you know, like kits like the Tamiya Spitfire, one of the best plastic kits ever made, but the decals are like an inch thick. So you need aftermarket decals for that kit. The decals in the kit are terrible. You know, the Hobby Boss Spitfire I built, if you haven't seen that, go back and take a look. The decals in that were like laying down leather. It was awful. They just would not go down. And as I say, the Takom Apache, the decals in there were, well, they're not even worth talking about, are they? So I think the pros outweigh the cons. As I say, the cons are the time it takes to do it and the cost, but the actual end result is just fantastic. It's really, really good. And if I gave that a clear coat, that would be absolutely dead flat. And I could come along now with a 1500 stick and just gently sand over that. Okay, and then any nibs or any edges I've got are gone. You know, and you can see it is the proper painted on look. Look at that there, it's just bloody awesome, isn't it? I'm not trying to say my work is awesome, I'm saying the results you get with these masks are awesome. So that's been type D, so that's where we put the colour down first, mask it off and then put the camouflage on. As I say, the next video will be putting the actual, we're going to use this wing again, we'll be actually putting some letters, a roundel and the main wing roundel down on top of the camouflage, and we'll see how that looks. And as you can hear there, that's really smooth, and this is a bit, there you go. So there we are. What I might do as well at the end of the other video is put some grey primer over this so you can see there are literally no steps there. There's probably going to be a slight step on that red, but nothing to talk about really. So there we go. Lovely, isn't it? Right, I'll see you all soon for part 3 of this test. And as I say, if you're still awake and you're not fed up yet, well done. Get yourself a free beer or something out the fridge. See you soon, guys. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.